Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Marvel Snap has become one of my go-to mobile games in recent months. This is a card-based game with a Marvel theme that uses powers and abilities as well as mechanisms that some of my favorite board games share as well. In this video, I'm going to talk about my 10 favorite cards in Marvel Snap, as well as about some board games that share similar mechanisms in case you're looking for a non-virtual version of the game. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about some Marvel Snap. I want to start this video off by giving a quick overview of Marvel Snap. This can be played on mobile or on Steam, and it's a 6-minute game that has simultaneous play, as well as has you collecting cards in order to build decks to defeat your opponents. At its heart, the game is a lane battler. You're going to have 3 different locations you're fighting over, trying to get the most power at those locations, using energy to play cards, and then at the end of 6 turns, whoever has the most power at those 2 locations wins the game. Now, the game is played in turns where you're going to be generating 1 energy. This next turn, you'll generate 2, then 3, then 4. So your cards that you're able to play increase in power, but you're trying to definitely play cards every single turn to make the most of the energy you're actually producing. Each of your cards will have special abilities, and you'll also have to play them to different locations that also offer new ways to play and interact. For example, you might have the Sanctum Sanctorum where no one's actually allowed to play cards there, so you need to play cards that can move or summon cards into different other areas. Or you may have a card that randomly puts card onto the field, like Sakaar here, so you have to plan that and try to work around what could accidentally get played from your hand. There's a lot of variety in the different locations, and I think that's one of the things that makes this game stand out. But the biggest standout is definitely the cards, the different types of Marvel characters that have been put into this game. They're thematically appropriate, most of the cards in the game, and I think they do a great job of giving some cool variety, and you'll get this progressive unlock of new characters as you play. Another thing I really like about this game is the deck construction itself. You're going to have a deck of only 12 cards, and every single card is unique, but because of the way the game works, you're drawing 9 cards generally throughout the course of the game, which means you're going to see a good majority of the cards that you actually put in there. I like that because you're having a very low stakes deck building, but every decision matters because each card is so integral to the core identity of your deck. You're going to see most of these cards as you play, so you want to make sure that they synergize well together. The last thing I want to mention is the cube system in the game. As you play, you're going to be climbing up the ladder, fighting these matches, trying to increase your rank, and every time that you think that you have a hand, or you may think that you'll be able to win the match, you can decide to snap. There's this giant cube at the top here, and when you snap, it's going to increase the potential cubes that you're wagering on the actual match itself. You can withdraw at any time, and that means you're losing less cubes, but if you make it to that final turn, then you actually win. You can get a giant payout of cubes. So the match wins can be anywhere from 1 to 8 cubes, and getting those huge cube wins feels so satisfying when you're able to outplay your opponent, or maybe call their bluff if they think that they're going to win, or maybe you know that they're not going to win and they just snapped in order to push you out. It's a great mind game that I think adds to the tension of Marvel Snap, and is another reason that you're going to keep getting drawn back into it. The game that I want to compare Marvel Snap to is Air, Land, and Sea, a card game that's quite similar in the way that it's a lane battling game where you're trying to win 2 out of the 3 lanes. In this one, though, you do not construct your deck, so it's easy to just pull out and play with anybody at any skill set. You'll shuffle up this central deck of 18 cards and then deal hands of 6 to each player. You'll play your cards into the lanes based on the color to get their abilities. For example, if you have a land card, you got to play it in the land section, or you can play them face down to put them into any, giving you some versatility. You have a set power, so everybody knows what's actually potentially in each deck, so it's a lot of mind games and trying to push your opponent to actually give up. Very similar to the cube system in Marvel Snap, based on when the opponent actually gives up, that determines how many points that you're going to win. If you make it to the very end, you're going to get 6 points, which is half the amount you actually need to win the game, but if they give up right away, they can only give up maybe 2 points or 3 points. It depends on when they're actually giving up, if they're first or second. So I love the timing of this and how bluffing can be a really big thing to snag a couple of points here and there and can propel you to victory. Or you can do it the other way, where you're trying to make one awesome match and win 6 points handily in 2 different outings. So I like that there's bluffing here, and you can see the inspiration and the mechanisms that are shared between this and Marvel Snap. Air, Land, and Sea currently has 1 standalone expansion, Air, Land, and Sea Spies, Lies, and Supplies, as well as a small promo card, but Spies, Lies, and Supplies changes up the formula by adding these new tokens, these supplies that can actually be placed in the different areas, giving you extra strength, as well as leaning into the espionage theme with having you read what cards your opponent potentially has in their hands, the strength, the color, etc. So it adds some more counterplay and interesting decisions when it comes to predicting what your opponents actually have in their hand and what resources are at their disposal. And there are also two completely redone versions of these original two games, with Critters at War getting rid of the realistic artwork and putting this more cartoony farm animal fighting artwork. So you have this on all of the different cards, making things a bit brighter as well. And there's also a redone version of Spies, Lies, and Supplies with the aptly titled Flies, Lies, and Supplies. So if you're looking for an alternative to Marvel Snap in the card game form that's not virtual at all, my recommendation definitely is Air, Land, and Sea. Get whatever of the themings that you like. I love the cartoonish artwork on both of these Critters at War versions, but I think that you cannot go wrong with this. But if you enjoy Marvel Snap as well, this might be just one that you try if you're looking for something a little bit different with that set card pool, a little bit more balanced between the two decks, and a tabletop version of a game that you're enjoying on the mobile. So that is Air, Land, and Sea and Marvel Snap, some overviews of those games. Now let's go ahead and get into my list of my top 10 cards in Marvel Snap. And before we get into this list, I want to quickly give you an update on what my collection is for Marvel Snap. I'm going to use Marvel Snap Zone to show you my collection of cards that I'm missing. So there are some cards that I don't actually have any experience playing with, just because I'm not that far into my journey yet of Marvel Snap. So I have everything up from Series 3 completed, but I am missing a couple of Series 4 cards. They're on the screen here, so like Darkhawk, Ghost, Sentry, Shadow King, Shayna, Silver Surfer, Stature, and Zabu. They are not in my collection currently, have not played with them, as well as the Series 5 cards. These are the Ultra Rares: Galactus, Jeff the Baby Land Shark, Kang, Kitty Pryde, Master Mold, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, and Snowguard. So I have not played with any of these cards. I started playing with the season pass, that thing. I started playing with that when MODOK came out, so I have not had any of the other season pass cards. So Silver Surfer and Zabu, still have not played with them yet. Missed that entire fancy meta, but this will definitely change my opinions on my list, I'm sure, and now you can get an idea of where I'm coming from. And then the last thing I want to mention is where we're going to be looking at these cards. This is the Marvel Snap Fan website. This has a great layout of all the cards, and it's a great way to look at their effects, the artists, just get all of the different information for the different cards here. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the list with number 10. And my number 10 goes to America Chavez, and her ability reads, it starts on the bottom of your deck, draw this on turn 6. So it's a 6 cost, 9 power, but the main reason that you're putting this card in your deck is it goes onto the bottom of your deck, and you're always drawing it on turn 6, which means that you're going to be drawing all of your other cards before turn 6. This is super important when I deck build, because a lot of times I'm thinking about the cards that I want to draw early. I want these specific cards on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and if I'm drawing anything else, that's not what I want to be doing. So basically, when you play America Chavez, for your first 5 turns of the game, you're playing with a 9-card deck, and this is something that playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and all those different card games, it's something that's really important, is to decrease your deck size, so that way your deck is more consistent. So I love how she ensures that early game. That's America Chavez, my number 10. My number 9 goes to Hazmat, a 2-power, 2-cost card with the on-reveal effect of afflict all other cards with -1 power. I love this disruption toxic deck that exists in Marvel Snap, comboing things like Typhoid Mary and Luke Cage, but the ability to completely hit every single card on the board, and I love playing this near the end of the game, is so powerful. It's such a great feeling when you're building your own 6-drop at the end of the game, where you're dropping all of these small cards. You can use this in combination with some other cards, and then you flip it, and you get that -1 power to every single card that's been played. It's such a gratifying feeling when you're able to inflict all of these little negatives all over the board, and that can push you towards victory. That's Hazmat, my number 9. My number 8 goes to Rogue. This is a 3-cost, 1 power. On reveal, steal an ongoing ability from a random enemy card at this location. Now, Rogue has really come into the limelight in this past couple of weeks. I've been playing so much of her, as all of these ongoing cards are having a lot of meta relevance, including things like Super Scroll, which can copy all of the abilities of your ongoing opponents, but Rogue here will steal the ongoing abilities. Not only are you getting it, but you're also taking it from an opponent. This can be something that they rely on quite a bit. For example, Patriot decks, who get to boost the abilities and powers of all their they boost the abilities and powers of all their no ability cards. You can steal that and turn off all of their other abilities. And if you can play the timing of this perfectly, you can also steal it right before they try to copy it with something like Mystique, and that means that you're going to shut them down from their entire combo, and generally they're going to retreat after that, and then you can usually get a couple of cubes just for revealing a Rogue card. Love this, and it's just such a powerful card. When you have it in your hand, you feel great because you know that it's going to either sit there and do nothing, or it's going to be the game-winning card. Feels amazing. That is Rogue, my number 8. My number 7 goes to one of the most most interesting one-drop cards in the game. This is Titania, a 1-cost 5-power card that says after any card is played here, you or your opponent, this card switches sides. This is such a cool card to either save for the late game for a surprise 5 power somewhere, or you can put it out early and use it to shift sides, making certain locations give debuffs or buffs to your opponents, locking your opponents out of specific locations, so that way you're able to, when you need to, actually play something to Titania's location, switch her back, and get that 10 power swing, because not only is your opponent losing the 5 when it's on their side, but you're also gaining the 5 when it moves back. It feels so good when the numbers just start to flip, and this Titania card is such a cool one to work your brain around and see how it works in your strategy. Not the most intuitive one when you start playing with it initially, but once you get the hang of it, it's such a gratifying playstyle. That's my number 7, that is Titania. My number 6 goes to Iron Man, one of the most basic cards, one of the earliest cards you're going to unlock, with a simple effect, 5 cost, 0 attack, so 0 power, ongoing, your total power is doubled at this location. An ongoing effect, so definitely susceptible to things like Rogue or Super Scroll, but so simple in how it works, it just doubles your power. And one of the coolest things about this is the power gain here affects the location, which means that your characters at the location are safe from things like Shang-Chi. They're not going to be able to be destroyed because they have that high power stat, and you can use this in combination with things like Mr. Negative, one of my favorite decks types to play, where you're able to flip the stat, so it's a 0 cost 5 power, doubles the location strength. It's crazy powerful. Iron Man's one of those reliable cards that whenever it hits your side of the board, whether you played it yourself or you got to cheat it out somehow, it feels amazing. So that is my number 6, that is Iron Man. My number 5 goes to Nova, and this is, I think, my favorite one drop in the entire game. It's a card that whenever I see it, I'm so happy to slap it down, because at any point this thing will get destroyed either by my opponent or myself, and it will give me way more value than it's worth, particularly when it's destroyed in the later portions of the game. Use this in combination with Sarah builds and then throwing out a Killmonger there, destroying all of the one drops on the board, being able to self-kill this thing, have it just out there to block opponents' kills. It feels so satisfying when it pops off, getting the 1 cost, 1 power when it's destroyed, give your cards +1 power. Feels amazing when this one pulls off, and there's some great alternative art for it as well. Nova's just one of the most solid one drops in the game, and I think he's my favorite one for sure. So that is my number 5, that is Nova. My number 4 goes to Storm. This is a 3 cost, 2 power. On reveal, flood this location. Next turn is the last turn cards can be played here. Storm is a control card for sure. You put this in a location, not only do you get rid of the location's ability in case it's detrimental, but now you're going to make sure that that location gets no more cards in the following turns. Of course, there's going to be ways that you can sneak in other cards in here with things like Dr. Doom filling up locations with Doombots or Ultron or whatever. Baby Jeff the Baby Landshark now can jump into these flooded areas, but having that extreme impact as soon as you play it is so powerful. It feels so good when you're able to choose how the game is going to progress, and you get to dictate the arc of it as well. You can decide when your opponent is actually going to be putting cards into the area. Are they now going to spend their entire turn 4 to place things into that area that they will no longer be able to? Are you going to force them into that play or make them give up? It's up to you and how you play Storm, and as mentioned with Nova, there's some amazing artworks of Storm out there too. So amazing card, that is number 4, that is Storm. My number 3 goes to a card I mentioned earlier. This is Killmonger, 3 cost, 3 power. On reveal, destroy all 1 cost cards. There's a lot of powerful 1 cost cards in this game, so having a blanket destroy all of them with a single well-costed card, this is such an awesome card to just have in your hand. Very similar to the feeling that I have when I'm holding on to Storm or Rogue, having this power, this way to control the game's state in my hand. That's how I feel when I have Killmonger, but you can almost always get value with him because everybody's trying to be as efficient as possible with their card play. So when they're putting out their 1 cost, you're able to throw a Killmonger on the board. It's such a cool feeling as you watch the board and everything starts popping off as all these 1 cost things are getting destroyed. And in combination with other cards that spawn all of these 1 cost characters, you can play things like Death for super cheat. You're getting now all of these cards that you shouldn't be able to, and the fact that you have the choice on when you want to activate that is a gratifying feeling for sure. So that's my number 3, that is Killmonger. My number 2 goes to Thanos, a 6 cost, 10 strength. At the start of the game, shuffle the 6 Infinity Stones into your deck. Now Thanos himself does not do anything when he hits the board. He's a pretty much vanilla 6/10, but unfortunately he does have an effect, so other cards that interact with no abilities don't actually work on him. But the thing you're wanting to play Thanos for is the stones that he puts into your deck. So you have 6 different stones that all do something different, but they have one thing that not any card really has in Marvel Snap, and that is card draw. Whenever you play a stone, generally you're going to get some additional resource in your hand, plus a bonus effect. And they're also only one cost, so they're efficient to play, and you can pretty much fit them into any portion of your curve. Starting off with Mind Stone here, this one lets you draw 2 stones from your deck. Pretty straightforward, gets you access to all the other ones. Also a great one to play first as you're starting to thin out your deck. Your Power Stone is just a 1/3, so really efficient stat-wise, and if this is out and you've played all of the other stones, then you're going to be able to get out a Thanos with plus 10 power. Next up, you have the Reality Stone here. This is very similar to Storm, where you're able to turn off a location, but this one in particular is going to just transform it to something else. So you're not able to lock it out or anything like that, but you are able to change a location that's messing with you, or you can even use it on locations that your opponent is anticipating still being there in the future. For example, there's a location called Limbo that extends the game to 7 turns instead of 6. So if we Reality Stone that on the 6th turn, then the game just ends, and that's not something the opponent was expecting. I love that surprise factor and the fact it's so cheap. Next is the Soul Stone. Very simple again, 1/1, but its effect is you get to draw a card, and then your enemy cards here have -1 power. Depending on where you play, this card can be a 1/5, super efficient stat line, feels great to play. Next is the Space Stone. This is such an interesting one as well. When you play the Space Stone, you're able to move cards to its location. Just one next turn, but there's some cool plays that you can do with this, with maybe a move archetype, or just in general with repositioning. It feels good to always have just a bit more control of the area and the power than your opponent does. And the last one is the most straightforward, but I think the most versatile in its use, and this is the Time Stone. On reveal, you draw a card, and then next turn, you gain +1 energy. I love this because you're able to play this on turns right before maybe you're trying to play like a double-costed turn. You play it on turn 4, so that way on turn 5 you play a 6 cost, and on turn 6 you play a 6 cost, or vice versa. Maybe it's turn 2 and you want to play 2 4 costs in a row. So you can play it in a lot of different ways to fit all of your other cards and make sure they work. And the fact that these are thematic and cool, and they just feel great when you play them and draw, they're like this little toolbox that's all wrapped around this Thanos introduction. You put them in your deck, and your whole deck, this big majority of it, a third of it pretty much, is just these Infinity Stones and the Thanos package. I like that when you put this in, it changes the way that you play, it changes how you're going to be constructing your deck, and it opens up the game space. We saw with Killmonger, you can kill these stones pretty easily and not really suffer the negative consequences while still getting out things like death for free. You can use these with these swarming decks. I think it's so much fun. This is a playstyle that I really enjoy. That is Thanos, my number 2. But my number 1, barely inching out Thanos here, is a card that I put into pretty much all of my decks recently. This is Debris. Now, Debris is a 3 cost, 3 power on reveal. Add a rock to each other location for both players. Very similar to Storm and Killmonger, this is a symmetrical effect, so it's supposed to affect both players equally, but because you're the one playing this, you really get to decide where it's going to be powerful and when it's going to be powerful. I love the fact that you are clogging up different spots on the board because, as we saw with the maps earlier, there's a limit of 4 cards in each of the different lanes for each players. So if you're able to put this in a position where it's hindering your opponent and increasing your own power and ability, that's something that you're going to want to be finding. In addition, it shuts off a lot of combo decks, things like Galactus, turning off the empty locations. You can use it to clog up necessary spaces for maybe ongoing effects or special abilities. You can use it in tandem with the different locations, being able to stop special effects from happening or combo potential. This card is so versatile while being so straightforward in how it works, and I love the repercussions of putting out those rocks. And the rocks are these 1 cost, 0 attack, no ability cards, so when they do hit the board, you feel it. You've wasted this time, you've wasted this space, but you have the control as the Debris player. And of course, there's a lot of cards that you can bring in with Debris, things like Hazmat, Viper. You have the Patriot deck that can benefit from this. Lots of different ways to benefit from yourself by using these rocks and also hinder your opponent. So much control, so much fun. That is Debris, my number 1. And that's the list. Those are my top 10 favorite cards in Marvel Snap. I'm curious to hear what you thought about this list, what you thought about my card picks, which ones need to be higher, which ones needed to be lower, what cards I need to be playing more with, and in general, what are your favorite cards in Marvel Snap? Now keep in mind, I am only in that collection level as mentioned before here, so there are some cards that I have not played with yet. Which of these cards do you recommend that I unlock next? I'm thinking about Kang for sure, sounds like a lot of fun. I'm happy that Kitty Pryde is getting released for everybody for free, that's pretty awesome. And then I have Zabu pinned currently on my deck, on my shop, so he's going to be the one that I'll probably be buying next after the next big bad. I'm waiting for the High Evolutionary for when the Guardian set comes out. Looks like a lot of fun. But overall, I'm loving Marvel Snap, and if you haven't, give Airland and Sea a try. I think it's an awesome cardboard alternative for this digital game. But overall, 2 games that I can definitely recommend: Airland and Sea and Marvel Snap. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.